Good evening. Welcome to QUT Web News.
Good evening.
Gerard Baden-Clay will face an appeal over his downgraded murder charge. The Queensland Department of Public Prosecutions has a successful outcome in Canberra today.
This morning, the High Court granted Queensland's Department of Public Prosecution special leave to appeal a Brisbane court's ruling that Gerard Baden-Clay was guilty of manslaughter, not murder.
Now, this is actually a good sign because it shows that the justice system works for the rich, for the poor, for the innocent and the guilty.
A full bench of up to 7 judges will now consider whether to reinstate the original murder conviction.
It doesn't mean that the High Court is going to decide in favour of the Crown. It merely means that they will listen to full arguments on both sides to determine whether the Court of Appeal got it right.
The downgrading of the conviction, made last December, saw unprecedented public outcry, including a petition presented to Queensland's Attorney-General which had more than 122,000 signatures, and a protest of thousands in King George Square late last year. A total of 15 applications for special leave were before the highest court in Australia today. The other 14 were dismissed, showing just how rarely leave to appeal is granted. The next stage of the legal process will be before the High Court later this year. Joseph Ogilvie, QUT News.
An outlaw motorcycle gang leader is back in Brisbane facing murder charges after being extradited from Serbia. Bogdan Suic fled the country 4 years ago. He's now accused of being part of an execution-style shooting.
Last night, police escorted the 28-year-old from Brisbane Airport to the City Watch House. This morning, Bogdan Suic appeared in the Brisbane Magistrates Court, charged with 1 count of murder. The appearance came after he was arrested in Serbia last year.
And it's the first time we have ever extradited someone from Serbia, and first time I've been involved in extraditing someone from a country that didn't have a treaty.
In April 2012, 22-year-old Jack Lee was gunned down at Warragul Square shopping centre in an alleged drug deal gone bad. Queensland Police worked with Serbian authorities to finally track down and arrest Suic.
He did hide prior to proper authorities being granted, and it took another close on 2 years before he was located again.
Outside court, Suic's lawyer Jim Coburn says it's too early to say whether his client will defend the charge. The magistrate remanded him in custody, set to reappear on the 13th of June, and as he was taken away, his supporters in court saluted to him, to which he responded in the same manner. Jessica Stewart, QUT News.
16 people were taken to hospital after a tourist boat fire, suffering hypothermia, seasickness and shock. Rescue crews were able to save all 46 tourists who had to jump for their lives when the boat exploded. The catamaran, Spirit of 1770, was off Lady Musgrave Island when it began to sink.
It was once a tourist boat, now it's wreckage on the bottom of the Great Barrier Reef. The Spirit of 1770 was returning from the island when flames took hold.
And all of a sudden the captain goes, "Get off the boat." And I'm looking at him thinking, how? He's like, "Get off the boat, jump."
This was the view from the mainland, a billow of smoke. On board, passengers were highly distressed, but all made it to life rafts, then waited hours as rescuers tried to reach them.
I was thinking like, wow, what if no one shows up because it took so long?
It was an abrupt end to what should have been a positive Aussie experience for tourists on board.
It was terrifying for all of them. We're just thankful that everyone was accounted for and no one has suffered any major injuries.
Police are investigating why the boat's engine exploded. Tegan Atkins, QUT News.
Another bumpy day for Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull on the federal election campaign trail. He's been confronted by an angry mum upset over the cost of education and been forced to defend his link to an offshore company named in the Panama Papers.
Mr Turnbull was campaigning in Melbourne today, and the focus was supposed to be on small business. But it was his business dealings in the 1990s that came under media scrutiny. Mr Turnbull denied that an offshore company he was director of failed to meet its legal tax obligations.
The company of which I was of which Neville Rowan and I were directors was an Australian listed company, and had it made any profits, which it did not, regrettably, it certainly would have paid tax in Australia.
It was a happier day for the opposition leader.
Happy birthday, Mr. Shorten. Happy birthday to you.
On day 4 in Queensland, he continued discussions on Labor's education policy, visiting schools in Rockhampton. He's heading to Sydney ahead of tomorrow night's first face-to-face debate with the Prime Minister. Ben Brew, QUT News.
Independent MP Rob Pyne says he and his family have been the target of abuse by the Electrical Trades Union. He says he's been called a rat, and that's just the beginning.
Mr Pyne says he's been the target of a hate campaign by the union.
Compulsive liar, a rat, a megalomaniac.
He says the abuse began when he left the Labor Party back in March.
Hope he gets run over by a bus. Pyne makes Rats Act seem like a better option. Can you put someone in a wheelchair twice? Hang this grub for treason.
Printouts of the abuse were tabled. And LNP leader Tim Nicholls demanded a response from the Premier.
There is nobody that supports those attacks on the member for Cairns.
The ETU denies the abuse and says Mr Pyne has misled Parliament. While Rob Pyne says nasty social media comments are all too familiar, he says this time it's gone too far and caused significant distress for him and his family. The independent member for Cairns says now may be the time to leave politics.
Certainly made me seriously consider, giving it away, but you got your family who, they're the people you actually keep going for.
The ETU retaliated by saying they'll ensure he loses his Cairns seat in the next election. Mary Claire Simpson, QUT News.
If you didn't already know, it's International Nurses Day. When you need them, nurses are always there. Today honoured the vital contribution nurses make to our healthcare system.
At Parliament House, praise from the top.
Our nurses go above the call of duty. They are always putting patients first.
It's also an opportunity for all Australians to express their appreciation.
Just this week, the Roy Morgan poll showed yet again that nurses are the most respected profession for 22 years in a row.
The theme for this year's Nurses Day is a force for change, something the Australian Nursing and Midwifery Federation says is particularly relevant in the fight to restore billions axed from health funding.
Unfortunately, health will never make money, but it will always spend money.
The Premier says she's committed to improving Queensland's healthcare system.
My government has a very clear commitment about putting on 4,000 new nurse graduates over the next 4 years. We've budgeted for that.
Let's get the health checks underway.
The care that nurses provide for their patients is widely recognised, but it's the additional emotional support that often goes unnoticed.
It's hoped that days like today will help create better healthcare for all Australians. Catherine Butt, QUT News.
Brisbane can claim to be the home of sport for the next 6 weeks, as the city is inundated with high-profile matches. Today, the Lord Mayor launched the Show Your Colours campaign in support of local teams.
It's the first time these mascots have been together in the same place. The Show Your Colours campaign urges locals to get behind their favourite Brisbane sporting team, whatever the code.
This is a time of year where Brisbane shines in terms of all of the sporting events that we have on.
Brisbane's sporting spectacle will kick off this weekend with the NRL doubleheader. The Broncos face Manly and the Cowboys take on the Storm.
It's a great occasion. Obviously, some quality teams are coming up to play, and I think all 4 teams are in the top 5 at the moment.
AFL, rugby union and netball are all being played here in the coming weeks.
If we can get as many Queensland public involved in this collection of sport, the better.
With 11 key fixtures over the next 6 weeks, Brisbane will become a sporting mecca, with fans expected to generate $100 million for the local economy.
Absolutely perfect.
Yes, very excited we are. Yes.
So super excited. Go Birdies.
Today at Kangaroo Point, jockeys took a different jump than the one on the track. Brave on horseback, but
it's a bit different than riding horses, that's for sure.
It's all to promote the Brisbane Racing Carnival, which gets underway at Doomben on Saturday. Karavai Piggott, QUT News.
Time now for a look at the weather.
and the lovely blue skies continued across Brisbane today. We reached a top of 26 degrees. The Gold Coast was 25 degrees and 26, the top on both the sunny coast and in Ipswich. Around the nation tomorrow, expect another sunny day in Sydney. Clouds across Canberra and Melbourne. Showers continuing for Hobart, expect a windy day there. Adelaide will see sunshine. Over in the west, possible showers expected for Perth, and heading up north, Darwin will be mostly sunny. Back to Queensland, Mount Isa tomorrow will be sunny with a top of 30. Clouds should stick around in Cairns, expect a shower or two there. Townsville will be sunny, 31. In fact, it'll be sunny right down to Bundaberg, tops in the high 20s. Finally, the outlook for Brisbane, more blue skies tomorrow and 27 degrees. The same for Saturday, and Sunday will be a little warmer. That brings you up to date with the weather.
And that's all the web news we have for now.
We're back tomorrow with more QUT news. Goodbye.
Goodbye.